Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
So maybe the results, sister, that you are trying to achieve in an area of your life is just not happening yet, but doesn't mean that it's not going to happen at all, right? How easy is it for us to kind of say, like, listen, I have this thing that I want to create. I want to create something in my business. I want to have this kind of relationship with my kids. I want to create this kind of like intimacy and passion and connection within my marriage. I want to create a greater connection back to spirit and God, source, higher power. I want to create my body so that it's lean and powerful. And like, how many times have we started something and not continued because we didn't see the results that we thought, quote unquote, should happen at this point or should happen at that time, and said, oh, this isn't working, and just kind of gave up. This is not working because the results didn't happen at the speed that we thought that we were supposed to happen at. But here's something I'm going to have you consider today, sister. Who the fuck are you, or I, by the way, to say results should happen at this point? Like, who are we to determine that? Now listen, it doesn't mean that if you say, you know what, well, I've been working out for 6 months and I haven't lost a pound, so, it's just going to take longer. If you know, for example, that you've been still scarfing down chips late at night, right? You're not getting enough sleep, so your body's in a constant state of like inflammation, and so you can't possibly lose weight. Where you know that the workouts that you're doing are just simply like they're not pushing you enough anymore. They're not going to create a change because you're doing the same ass thing. So it's not saying that of like just kind of hanging back and saying, well, it'll happen when it happens. No, it's just understanding that I did post about this morning as well too, the constant work that's required to hit outcomes, to be able to create the things that you want to in your life, like they take some time. And it's not going to be necessarily on the timeline that you want. In fact, most things in my life have not come on the timeline that I wanted. Even when I wanted them really badly, even when I tried really, really hard to make that happen. Let me give you an example of that. Becoming a mother. 7.5 years of infertility. Still never became a mother, biologically. We ended up adopting our 2 boys. Our first one, Tyson, after 7.5 years, and being on the wait list, by the way, to adopt for over 2 years. And the 9 months process leading up to what that takes. And then Kai came along almost 3 years after Tyson. So that was our second boy that we adopted. So like I was doing all sorts of things to make this happen, right? So, after we tried for the first year and a half, didn't happen. I'm like, okay, so let me start taking a look at natural treatments and therapies. Started acupuncture, did that for about 9 months. Nothing. Started then going through all the different procedures of then for the next year or 2, pretty much shut down because it was just so painful. It had been like 2 years at that point. All sorts of failed pregnancy tests, ovulation tests to figure out when is the best time for us to actually have sex and conceive. And it didn't happen in the 2 years. Now, just know, unless you have gone through infertility right now, it is hard to understand what this is really like. And so just listen and be open. Listen and be open. There's a lot of you too that get pregnant right away and like, mazel tov, that is amazing. But the pain of that, knowing how long that I wanted to be a mom. So then after that, so a couple years of kind of just being like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Then we started to look at other things. We started to actually go through fertility, like testing and different procedures, and got to a point where the next thing would have been now in vitro. And I was like, I am fucking out. I just felt so beat up physically, emotionally, like I'm done with this. In the meantime, we had started to look into adoption. And so, and all the fertility stuff that we did, natural and medical treatments, and then And then all the stuff that goes through with adoption, all the emotions that come along with that, the financial investment of adoption. Until 7.5 years later. Now, did I think that when we started trying to conceive 7.5 years prior that it would take that long? Of course not. Did I understand that the pain that I was about to go through, the loss, which really, this is infertility, is it's a loss. It's like a mourning. No woman, no couple ever thinks that they can't conceive. Of course not. Why not? Why would you think that way? And even those that struggle for a while, there's still the dream you have in the back of your mind of people, oh, they've tried forever and then they got pregnant. Well, that never happened for my husband and I. And so even after Tyson was born, even after Kai was born, there was still a big piece of me that was mourning that loss. And quite honestly, it's still, it's like any loss. It's still kind of there now. I know at this point that the reason that I did not conceive biologically is that I was destined to be Tyson and Kai's mommy. Without question, I know that to be true. Not believe, I know that to be true. I know that to be true. So see, the plan that was there for me was not the plan that I had in my mind. The outcome still happened. Became a mommy to 2 boys. But it didn't happen on my timeline. It didn't happen the way that I expected it to. The pause I'm taking right now from coaching with Women Wanting More, a lot of it has been bred from the frustration of like, this is not happening as I really wanted it to. I had this idea in my head, and I've seen other people that have come before me and are now kind of in front of me that have created these movements with coaching and live events and group coaching, and just things were not growing for me. Still a number of you that have joined the sisterhood and still continue to, still some of you that have come to live events and done their kind of like one-on-one group coaching, and it's beautiful. And that doesn't like denounce any of the work that all of you put in that are a piece of that small piece of the Women Wanting More tribe. The ones that actually said, hey, I want to go be on the podcast. I want more than what you offer here as a gift to you and all the other sisters around the world that listen to this podcast. We're 2+ million episodes, 2.4 million, something like that. Crazy. But it wasn't happening at the speed because I had in my mind of, well, it should happen by this time. And so I'm pausing right now because I don't know where I want to take this. I don't know. That's just the honest answer. But it was the frustration. So I get it. I get the, hey, you know what? This should happen on a timeline. Motherhood should happen in my mid-30s, not at the age of 41 and 44. Coaching, building this movement, I wanted this to be bigger, faster, not 2.5 years in of still struggling to have you attend live events. Going, how much more do I put into this? See, that's the piece of that too. You could be going at something for a while and the results might not be there, and that might also be feedback for you, right? It doesn't mean throw everything away. And believe me, I definitely had times of that, like with Women Wanting More, with my coaching programs, and certainly with motherhood of just well, fuck, maybe I'm not supposed to be a mother. Well, fuck, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this coaching. Maybe it's not valuable enough to actually make some of you take out your wallet and actually invest in yourself for this. And maybe I'm just too tired to keep doing all this stuff for free. And some of you are going to take this and go, oh, she's only about the money. That's your story, sister. That's your story. This podcast costs me money. You think it's free? It's not free. I pay someone to produce these episodes right now. This is my time that I take away from other things in my life to invest in this, to create this message because I believe in it, because I know it's something I've been called to do. But yet, results weren't happening as I wanted to, and so it's time for me to reassess and taking a pause and realizing that, you know what, maybe this pause right now is because my kids really need me right now. They're both struggling with choices that they're making, with behavior stuff, with, and I've always been a very, very, big piece of their life. Now, when I was in the practice, it was definitely a little bit trickier because I was working more hours. But since we moved here to Victoria 2 years ago, it's been so much time that I spend with my children. And the work time that I do, for the most part, is during the day when they've been either at daycare for Kai, who's now starting kindergarten in the fall, or when Tyson's at school. Like, that's when I did work. And I found little pockets of time, or after they went to bed at night. So the results that you are really trying to get, I want you to consider two things. Either that, number one, it may just be that you just don't have the results yet. It doesn't mean throwing the towel. It doesn't mean give up. Maybe it means to find another way. Right? So for me right now, when it comes then back to this example of coaching, I'm like, you know what? The first thing that the voice that God started to speak to me, oh my gosh, how many years ago was that? 2011. So 7 years ago was the first one I started to really hear this voice inside of me. It's like, you need to write. And so that's when I started writing a blog. Now that then kind of morphed into a podcast, and I had both going. This I'm going to do the podcast. I like that more. I just, but there's always been a pullback to writing for me. And so right now I've been writing really intermittent with the kids, like summer and summer camps and challenges with those, and stuff coming up with my husband and stuff with family. And I've had to dive in where I'm needed most. And so that's been that the writing has been very intermittent, but I feel this real pull to put things all together into a book, which I don't know exactly what it's about yet. You will find out, by the way. If you're not already receiving the newsletter, you got to do that, because you're going to get first dibs on it. It's at drkarenosborn.com/action guide. So go do that right now if you haven't already, so you can get all of the upcoming stuff. I've got a September 30th deadline in my mind of pulling all these pieces together that I've written, and at least having a draft at that point to put together into a book, which will either be something that you can order through my website, or it's going to be up on Amazon, one of the two, or both. Physical book, digital as well. So, for me, it's like, maybe there's just a different way. Maybe I need to be, writing and not so involved in the coaching, which is a lot more time intensive, a lot more money investment for me. Like running events, for example, costs money to put all these things together. Hotels, other people to assist. It's a lot. Food, it's a lot. It's a lot. So maybe writing is where I'm supposed to be right now, and I just need to really trust and to follow that. And so the feedback there you're getting can be, again, we'll come back to those two things. Either number one, just keep at it, sister. So what? You have this timeline of when you think this result is supposed to have happened. Maybe it's just simply going to take more time. And if you quit easily, you will never get a chance to really see and experience that. Or number two, it can also be feedback of, maybe you need to try another way. Maybe this just isn't working. See, if my husband and I were to continue to say, well, if we have a child, it's got to be biological, and this is the only way it's going to happen. I have a feeling, but it's a knowing of this. It was never going to happen. It was never going to happen that way. So we could have kept doing that. We could have kept trying to conceive on our own. And I'll tell you right now, the pain would be thick. I don't know if, as much as we love each other, as much as we are committed to each other for the rest of our lives, we took those vows back in 2000, June 17th, 2000, seriously, that I don't know what would be of our marriage because of all the pain that caused, the emptiness, the sadness. But it was really us saying, hey, you know what? Well, let's try another way. Let's try natural therapies. Okay, that's not working. Let's try some medical stuff. Okay, that's not working. Well, what about adoption? So here's your more tip for today. What is something that you've been trying to achieve right now in your life, right? So there's some outcome. You're wanting to do something with your body. You're trying to create something with your marriage or with your children, or maybe inside of your business, maybe spiritually, and you're not there. I want you to ask yourself two questions. Is it either number one, that you're just not there yet and you need to continue, or is it door number two, is that you need to find another way? And you figure out what that is. So this is just simply a one of reflection on this. You can take it further. You can take it further and say, I'm going to put some action behind this too. But let's start with the insight. Let's start with the revelation on this. And you decide where to take it from there. So that's it, sister. Already gave you the newsletter if you're not getting it already, drkarenosborn.com/action guide. And I will talk to you in the next episode. A life of more is one step away from, yes, you doing the fucking work, but also understanding that, all things take time, sister. All things take time. So don't give up and keep at it every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosborn.com/newsletter.